In this next example, we're going to be looking at chained objectives. That is, when one objective is completed or one task is completed, a second task will fire on the back of that. Now, it is important to remember that I am using parent tasks in here, so if the parent task is completed, the child tasks are also completed, which has in fact tripped me up because I was putting the parent task into the subtask or the secondary task that was created on the back of this, which was in turn causing some problems. So just be mindful of that. Avoid using parent tasks unless you're absolutely certain that the last parent task to be completed will be the final objective. That said, let's move on and talk about how this fits together. So we've got nothing new that we haven't already seen before. We've got the original task, we've got the set task state module, we've also got the trigger that will set the completion for the task, and we've also got the secondary task. As you can see there, the two are synchronized, so that is to say when this trigger fires, this task will be created and this task state will also be set. So when we jump in game, we actually will not see this task until after this trigger has fired. The intention for this objective is for the players to eliminate the enemy team in this area when the CSAT forces or OPFOR is not present. This condition will fire, and along with completing the task and also creating the new task, if we just run through the activation script here, we can see a sound will be played, and that is basically that script there which plays the sound. The sound source is the radio to allow the players to find the radio, and we update the marker color, which is pretty standard stuff. And then finally what we have is we have a loop. That there is the loop, and this loop basically every second it increments up to a maximum of 60, and at which point if 60 is hit, then this script is called, which sets the task state of task ID 102 to failed. That is to say, if it reaches 60 seconds and they've not managed to turn the radio off or relay in the information, then the task will be failed for them. However, if the variable radio check 1 changes, then instead the script will exit, reporting task 102 as succeeded, as in they have managed to activate it in time. And we can see there's just a sleep there just to stop the for loop from skipping too fast. Then lastly, we have the variable, which is the final count, which is referred to in the actual parent task to tell you at the very end whether you have failed or whether you have succeeded. So at the moment that is just basically saying that set the variable to whatever the current variable is plus 1. So that's all that's doing there. In fact, I really should have true at the end of that. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. But I really should do, just so that variable is sent to all clients. You never know when you might be referring to that locally on the client. But anyway, for now it's fine. So just on that point, even though I have opted to use scripts in here to set the task states, I could effectively just use another set task state module to do the same and then have a few extra triggers around here. The reason why I've opted for triggers in here is because it is quite difficult to fine-tune a timed objective. So I think the easiest approach is to use this for loop. You may have a better solution, and there is more than likely one solution to this. However, since we're doing a tutorial here, we might as well try something a bit different, and that's actually using the scripts here to set the task state. If I was really fancy, what I could actually do is I could effectively get rid of this task state altogether and then also move it into the trigger. So if I was to identify that as task 101, I could in effect delete this and then instead put at the very end 101 succeeded. which would have exactly the same function as this module here. So we do have a bit of flexibility when it comes to placing the modules down. We don't always require them. However, in this instance, and in fact 9 times out of 10, I would prefer to use this module just for simplicity. It certainly helps understanding things when you're looking at it again a long time in the future, and you don't have to wander through your script working out what it's doing from scratch all over again. So I'd always recommend using the modules just to keep things simple. We can see there that we've got 3 enemy teams to eliminate. Each one is just a copy of the other pretty much. Each radio sets its own variable. It's nothing we haven't seen before in the previous examples. This all uses the hold action add function. We can see nothing groundbreaking there. We've just changed the logo of the interact icons, and we also have the fact that the radio cannot be interacted with until the radio start trigger has been activated. So this trigger is the one in the center here. So until all units are killed, this radio will not be activated. And then when the radio has been activated, a variable is just set and broadcast, and that basically says the radio can no longer be checked. So that said, let's give that a go. This has taken a few attempts to get working from the original example in the mission, but it should be working quite fine now. So if I have a look at this radio, I cannot interact with it because the trigger has not yet fired. If we simply kill this guy here, we can see the task is created because the trigger gets fired. The eliminate team task is completed. Our radio plays a sound effect to allow the players to locate it. And I have 60 seconds to operate this radio. Having done so, the script fires. Radio 2 has been marked as completed. Again, the script fires, the sound plays according to the trigger. The loop is running 60 seconds to await for the check-in. It's waiting for a variable or for the 60 seconds to be hit. And in this last one, what I will do is I will not activate the radio. So I'm going to leave this for 60 seconds. Now, in 30 seconds, I have actually set the parent task to check. So in effect, the parent task will fire before this radio trigger fires, which is, well, for purposes of testing, it's completely fine. So all we have to do is just await a message to appear in the bottom corner telling us how many radios we activated, which should say 2. There we go. We only activated 2 radios. Now the reason it's only saying 2 is obviously because I didn't activate this radio. But as I was saying, the reason this message has displayed within 30 seconds is because I've instructed it to do so for testing. So rather than waiting for that to fail in another 30 seconds, what we could do, and what we should do in fact, is actually change that to 60-second waiting time. Because the reason for that is the 60 seconds after this trigger has fired should actually be allowed for the fact that they have up to 60 seconds to activate this radio. Now, having to wait 60 seconds for a task to be completed is a little bit, it's not too smooth. It's a little bit annoying for your players, especially if this was to end the mission. So no one wants to be waiting around for 60 seconds when they activate the radio after the first 10 seconds. So what I would suggest is this type of ending wouldn't actually end the mission. So this would be a precursor to something else where you have to eliminate the team and then you have to move in and eliminate an HVT as the main objective. So yeah, 60-second waits are a little bit too long, unfortunately, unless we change them all to 30 seconds. But anyway, that's for your choice as a mission maker. You can decide what your acceptable limits are. But a minute seems like a long time for me personally. Anyway, enough waffling. That's how you do synchronized tasks. with subsequent child tasks.